Hi, I'm Mia. I've been through a lot, and if you're hearing this, you're about to learn about a big part of my life. It all began with what should have been a happy event, my birthday party. I had just turned 33 and got promoted to senior project manager at a tech company in Austin, Texas. I was excited, feeling like my hard work was finally paying off. So, I decided to throw a party at my house to share the news with friends and family. My husband, David, and I had spent weeks getting ready. Our house, which was small but cozy, was decorated with lights, balloons, and a cake I'd chosen. David, a software engineer in his mid-30s, was supposed to be my biggest supporter, my partner in everything. He had always backed my career, or so I thought. The evening started out great, friends and family were there, and the mood was happy. I remember talking to Clara, my good friend and coworker, who was excited about my promotion. "You must be so happy, Mia," Clara said, her face full of excitement. "Tell us everything." I smiled, feeling the love in the room. I had been waiting for this moment to share my news. When it was time, I gathered everyone together. I looked at David, who was standing beside me, ready to support me. "Thank you all for coming," I started. "I have some exciting news. I've been promoted to senior project manager at work. It's a big step for me, and I couldn't have done it without your support." The room filled with cheers and applause. It was a moment I had always dreamed of, a time to share my success. But as I looked around, I noticed David's face wasn't showing the happiness I expected. Instead of pride, he looked a little uncomfortable. Mrs. Lancaster, David's mother, was sitting across the room. She had always been critical of me, especially about my career. As I was enjoying the congratulations, I heard her whisper to David, just loud enough for me to hear. "Is this what you wanted? For him to be overshadowed by his wife's career?" Her words hit me hard, like a sharp jab that deflated all the joy I had been feeling. I tried to ignore it, thinking she was just being her usual critical self. But David's reaction made it worse. He looked at me with a forced smile, his eyes full of doubt. "Mia," he said, his voice suddenly colder, "it's great and all, but don't you think we should start thinking about our future? Like settling down, starting a family?" My heart dropped. This wasn't the support I had hoped for. I felt hurt and confused. "David, we've talked about this," I said, trying to stay calm. "This promotion is important for both of us. It's a step forward in my career, and it brings more stability for our future." But David didn't seem to agree. He glanced over at his mom, who nodded at him, and it was like he became smaller under her disapproving gaze. "Mia, when are you going to slow down and focus on us? The career isn't everything," he said, sounding frustrated. My chest tightened. This wasn't the way I imagined the night going. What should have been a joyful celebration had turned into a tense moment. I tried to explain, but the damage was done. As dinner was served, the tension in the room only grew. David's mood soured, and the celebration felt like it was slipping away. By the time dessert came, I could see that David's frustration was building. The night had gone from hopeful to full of conflict, and then, it all came to a head. David stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You should know your place, Mia," he yelled, his voice loud and harsh. "You're my wife, not my competitor." I was shocked. The room fell silent as everyone stared at me. I stood up, heart pounding. "Being your wife doesn't mean I have to give up on my dreams," I said, my voice shaking with hurt and anger. "I deserve respect, not this." Then, in a moment that felt unreal, David slapped me across the face. The sound was loud and painful, and the room froze. I stood there, hand on my cheek, the pain spreading. Everyone watched in silence. With everything I had, I walked toward the foyer. My heels echoed on the marble floor, each step marking my decision to leave. I grabbed my purse, not looking back. The door clicked shut behind me, and just like that, the night that was supposed to be full of joy ended in devastation. As I drove away, the house disappearing in my rearview mirror, I felt a mix of emotions, fear, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. I was alone, but for the first time, I felt something new, freedom. This was the start of a new chapter, and I was determined to see where it would take me. The next morning, I woke up in my small apartment. The city sounds outside were so different from the chaos of the night before. The silence was both calming and unsettling. I had spent the night at Clara's place. She insisted I stay there, and I was thankful for her support, though the heaviness of the situation still lingered. Clara was a true friend, always there when I needed her, through long work hours, tough career moments, and now, this unexpected crisis. When I walked into the kitchen, she greeted me with a warm smile and a cup of coffee. "You must be exhausted, Mia," she said softly, "but I'm glad you're here. We'll get through this together." I nodded and took the coffee, feeling its warmth in my cold hands. The strong coffee gave me a much-needed boost to start the day. "Thanks, Clara. I don't know what I would have done without you," I said, my voice shaky. The night before, after leaving my own birthday party, I had driven aimlessly until I ended up at Clara's place. The celebration I had hoped for turned into a nightmare. I had never imagined David would react that way. I had always seen him as my partner, my equal, and the betrayal cut deep, leaving me both angry and sad. The next few days were filled with busy emotions and decisions. I knew I needed to take control of my life, and that began with ending my marriage. I contacted a divorce lawyer, something I had hoped would never be necessary. The lawyer's office was cold and sterile, a sharp contrast to the vibrant life I once had. Sitting across from him, I felt both determined and nervous. "We can start the process whenever you're ready," the lawyer said, his tone professional but kind. "I'll need some details, and we can file the papers." I took a deep breath, nodding. "Let's do it. I can't stay in this situation. It's not healthy for either of us." The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and paperwork, with moments of self-reflection. My work became my escape. My boss, Mr. Johnson, was incredibly supportive. He knew what I was going through, and his encouragement helped me find strength. "Mia," he said during one meeting, "you've handled everything with so much grace. Remember, your work matters, and we're here to support you." Clara was always there for me too. She kept me grounded, reminding me of my strength. "You've worked so hard to get here, Mia," she said. "Don't let this setback define you. You're capable of so much more." Despite the support, the process of divorcing David was emotionally exhausting. He tried reaching out, leaving messages and calling me. His voice often sounded full of regret. "Mia, can we talk?" One voicemail said. "I'm sorry for what happened. I want to fix this. Please, let's talk." I listened to his messages, each one a painful reminder of what had happened. The more he pleaded, the more I realized that reconciliation wasn't possible. The man I had married wasn't who I needed anymore. His attempts to fix things were too late. I had to focus on my healing. During this time, my career became even more important. What had once been a source of joy now symbolized my resilience. I dove into my work with renewed energy. I attended conferences, shared my story, and became a mentor to younger women in the tech industry. One of those women was Lily, an intern who reminded me of myself when I was starting out. She was eager, determined, and passionate about her goals. I took her under my wing, guiding her through the complexities of the tech world. "Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself," I told her. "You have every right to chase your dreams, and you deserve respect." Mentoring Lily became one of the most rewarding parts of my life. Watching her grow and succeed reminded me that despite the challenges I faced, I could still make a positive impact. Her success reflected the strength I had fought so hard to find in myself. Meanwhile, David's life seemed to be falling apart. I heard through mutual friends that his career was suffering. The way he had acted at the party had left a lasting impact, and he struggled to regain his footing. He sent me messages asking for help, but I stuck to my decision to keep my distance for my own well-being. One evening, as I reflected on the past few months, I realized how much I had changed. I had faced challenges head-on, learned to set boundaries, and rediscovered myself. It was a painful process, but it had led me to a place of empowerment. Looking back, I saw that the night of my birthday party, though devastating, was also a turning point. It was when I chose to stand up for myself, walk away from a toxic relationship, and embrace a future of my own. The path wasn't easy, but it led me to a new sense of purpose and self-worth. As the divorce continued, each day felt like a delicate balance between moving forward and looking back. I was managing my emotional recovery while keeping up appearances at work and in my personal life. David's attempts to reach out only made things harder. Despite his constant phone calls and messages, I stayed firm in my decision to move on. One cold November morning, while working on a new project at the office, Clara stopped by. She always knew when I was struggling, and today was no different. Clara and I were sitting on the couch, talking about everything that had been happening. I had just finished another round of phone calls from David, each one more desperate than the last. I rubbed my eyes, feeling the weight of the emotional toll. Clara could sense I was on edge. "Mia, I can see you're exhausted," she said gently. "You've been dealing with a lot. It's okay to feel tired." "I know," I replied with a heavy sigh. "I just feel like I'm always on the edge, like I can't fully breathe without being pulled back into all this drama. But I can't let it undo everything I've worked so hard for." Clara gave me a soft smile, her presence like a steady anchor in the storm. "You've come so far already, Mia, and you're not doing this alone. I'm right here with you. Don't let his actions dictate your peace. You've built something strong on your own, and that's worth fighting for." Her words reminded me of the importance of protecting my peace. I had spent so much of my life trying to make things work, but now I was learning that some things, like toxic relationships, simply weren't worth saving. As the divorce continued, there were moments when I doubted myself. I would question if I was truly making the right choice. The memories of better times with David would surface, and I'd wonder if it was all just a bad phase. But then I'd think of the night of my birthday, of his hurtful words, of the slap, and I would quickly remind myself why I had to leave. There was no going back. The work conference had been a major turning point. It was not just a speech, it was a moment of reclaiming my life and my voice. Standing on that stage, sharing my story, I realized that my struggles weren't just for me, they were for others too. The overwhelming response from the women in the audience, the gratitude they expressed, made me understand that my journey wasn't just about survival. It was about inspiring others to keep going, to push through their own challenges, and to never let anyone dim their light. Afterward, I received messages from several women who thanked me for sharing my story, telling me it had given them the strength to leave unhealthy relationships and pursue their own dreams. It was an unexpected but deeply rewarding outcome, one that gave me a sense of purpose beyond my own recovery. Lily's progress also continued to remind me of why I couldn't give up. Watching her grow in confidence and taking on more leadership roles at the company was a clear reflection of the strength I was rediscovering in myself. Our conversations about career and personal growth kept me grounded and reminded me of the power of mentorship. But as much as I was thriving professionally, David's presence in my life continued to cast a shadow. The phone calls, the letters, and even the surprise visit to my apartment were attempts to break down the walls I had so carefully built. Each time he reached out, I stood firm, reminding myself that this was my journey, and he no longer had a place in it. One evening, after a particularly emotional day, I got another letter from David. It was full of apologies and pleas for another chance. As I read it, I felt sad for what we had, but I stayed firm in my decision. I knew going back and reopening old wounds wouldn't help me move forward. So, I wrote a short, clear response. David, I've made my decision. It's best for both of us to move on and find our own paths. I wish you the best, but I need to focus on my future now. I sealed the letter and sent it off. That was my way of closing that chapter and finally leaving the past behind. As the new year came, I felt hopeful. My career was going well, and I was making a real impact on others' lives. The new year brought a fresh start, and I felt ready to embrace the future with a renewed sense of purpose. My work was thriving, and I was being given more chances to lead and speak at events. Each new achievement was proof of my strength and hard work, and I was determined to make the most of every opportunity. One cold January afternoon, I was getting ready for a conference where I would speak about leadership and personal empowerment. This felt like a full-circle moment, turning my past struggles into something powerful to share with others. Clara, always there for me, helped me finish preparing my presentation. Your story is going to inspire so many people, Clara said, reviewing my notes. You've turned your experiences into something amazing. Her belief in me meant a lot. When I stood in front of the crowd, ready to speak, I felt the weight of my past struggles giving power to my words. I talked about setting boundaries, reclaiming your identity, and finding strength in hard times. I shared how leaving a toxic relationship had helped me grow and feel empowered. The response was incredible. People came up to me afterward, thanking me and sharing their own stories of overcoming challenges. It reminded me why I had opened up about my journey, to help others realize they could overcome their struggles too. That sense of connection felt deeply fulfilling. My mentorship with Lily was going great as well. She had grown into a confident and capable professional, and I was proud of her progress. Our sessions weren't just about career advice. We also talked about personal challenges and staying true to yourself. David's attempts to contact me had lessened. I had received a few more letters, each filled with more regret and hopes to fix things, but I had made it clear that I was moving forward. I had learned that my worth wasn't tied to someone else's view of me. I had to focus on building a future for myself. In late February, I was invited to join a panel about women in tech. It was a great chance to speak alongside other successful professionals and share advice on breaking barriers in a male-dominated industry. As I prepared, I thought about how far I had come since that birthday party. On the day of the panel, I felt both nervous and excited. As I stood in front of the audience, I realized my journey wasn't just about overcoming personal struggles, it was about recognizing my strengths and using them to inspire others. I spoke with passion about the importance of self-worth, setting boundaries, and chasing our dreams, no matter the pressures from society or family. The panel went really well, and the audience's feedback was incredibly positive. It was clear that my story and the lessons I had learned were connecting with many people. I felt a deep sense of pride and accomplishment. I had turned a tough time in my life into something that could motivate and empower others. As spring came, I felt more grounded and confident in my new life. My career was thriving, I had set strong personal boundaries, and I was enjoying mentoring others. The challenges I had faced had made me stronger, and I was determined to keep building on that foundation. One evening, as I sat in my apartment reflecting on my journey, I realized that true success wasn't about the awards or career achievements. It was about the growth I had experienced and the person I had become. I had learned to value myself, set clear boundaries, and pursue my passions with determination. I had taken control of my life and built a future that reflected my values and goals. My journey was no longer defined by the past, but by the strength I had found within myself. Looking toward the future, I felt hopeful and excited about the new possibilities ahead.